like to be on schedule. So I look at coming up at 12 and being done at 12:15, and I'm like, okay, how do I speed this up as effectively as possible? I'm happy to be here. I've learned a lot from a lot of the speakers. I know I was a last-minute addition for someone who was not able to make it. And I know when I sent Jeff the slides that you're about to see, he wrote me back and said, are you sure that they're for the right topic, right? So they are. Just bear with me for a moment, and I'll try to get through this as quickly as possible and explain what I'm talking about here. So, the Sandler System Review, or why everyone hates dealing with salespeople. I'm going to quickly take you through some information on sales as it exists and approaches, and then I'm going to tell you how it relates to the productivity of the people that you actually have working for you and how it's applicable. So, in the sales hierarchy, there's a couple of different ways that you can be taken. And the first one's not showing up for some reason, but there's one below vendor. Okay? The first one would be peddler.
What?
Peddler. P-E-D-D-L-E-R. Peddler. So when I say the word peddler to you, what comes to mind?
Door-to-door salesman.
Door-to-door salesman. What else?
Used car salesman.
Used car salesman, unfortunately, for those in that business. I'm originally from New York. I escaped just like Bernie did. For me, when I thought peddler, you may not have this experience here in Orlando, but you're at a light, usually somewhere in Brooklyn, and a truck pulls up next to you, and the guy rolls down his window and says, hey, pull over, I want to show you something. And he opens up the truck, and there's like $5,000 speakers that he wants to sell to you for $50, right? And you've got to make the decision on whether you want to spend $50 to find out if that speaker frame has rocks inside of it, or if you're actually getting $5,000 speakers for $50. And to me, when I think peddler, that's what I think. The next up on the sales hierarchy is vendor. If I say to you vendor, what are you thinking about?
Transaction.
Transactional, right? So whoever you get your copy paper from would be an example, right? With a peddler, let me double back for a second. With a peddler, is there a high level of trust in any transaction you do with a peddler? Is there a lot of honesty or repeat business built into that relationship? No. What about for a vendor? Right? You do repeat business with a vendor, right? But what's your loyalty to a vendor?
Price.
Price, right? You buy copy paper from somebody else comes and says, I can give you the exact same product or close to it for 25% less, and you don't care how long you've been with that vendor. You go with the new guy, as long as they can deliver. Or maybe you do a test with them first, and if they can deliver, then you move your business. Next up is consultant. When I say the word consultant, what comes to mind?
He goes on forever.
He-
Have you ever heard a consultant say, my job here is done?
Well spoken. But who do you think of when you think consultant?
You think high end?
High end?
IT.
Sorry?
IT.
IT. Does anybody go, you know what? I have this issue. Let me hurry up and find the cheapest consultant that I can find to fix this issue. No. So money's not an issue. What about trust factor?
Yeah.
Pretty high, right? If you're hiring someone as a consultant, you've basically said, you know what you're talking about, and I'm going to let you look under the hood, and then I'm going to listen to what you say to me. And if he or she does their job correctly, what's the term of the relationship is what? You said they could be there forever,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Right? Or if you have that need or problem again, that's the first person you get on the horn. Right? And then the final level in the hierarchy is trusted advisor. When I say trusted advisor, what comes to mind? I need a but who? Who's a trusted advisor?
CPA, attorney,
CPA, an attorney,
doctor.
maybe a doctor from a personal standpoint.
Pastor.
Sorry?
Pastor.
Pastor from a personal standpoint, father figure,
Daddy.
mentor, right? That's when you think of when you think trusted advisor.
We strive for the word partner.
What's that?
We strive for the word partner from
That's
our
a good-
clients.
Partner, right? I'm good. Yeah, exactly. I want to partner with you on this endeavor. Is money ever an issue with a trusted advisor, really?
No.
If it is, it's 100 layers down,
Yeah.
right? Is there a lot of trust in that relationship? A lot of honesty back and forth in that relationship? Yeah, right? So in the hierarchy, when it comes to sales at least, we want to make sure we're above the vendor line, right? We want to be in the consultant line, working our way towards trusted advisor. And then, of course, when you think of bad salespeople, those in the room old enough to remember Joe Isuzu and Joe Isuzu commercials, right, from way back in the day. But you know, some studies have been done, and this is the word. These are the words that tend to come to mind with salespeople. And someone said, you know, as soon as I said peddler, someone said used car salesman. Okay, there he is. But these are some of the words associated with that. Here's some of the issues salespeople run into. I'm going to skip through this one for the moment because of time. And I want to talk about the prospect system and compare it to the way that we sell. Prospects are taught to withhold information or lie, gather information, let me have your proposal, commit to nothing, this looks really good. I'm going to take it under advisement, take it to the team, I think we're going to get a good outcome here, give me some time, and then they disappear or lie again. The traditional selling system, you qualify for interest, you present, you close, which means overcoming stalls and objections, and you chase. When you line those up, does that look like a good scenario for success? They mislead and you qualify for interest on bad information. They want to get free consulting, so you give it all to them when you present. They commit to nothing, so of course you're closing hard on someone who's not going to commit to anything today. And then they hide and you chase. 92% of think it overs result in 0 sales, statistically. 92%. And most sales people and sales staffs spend about 40 to 60% of their time chasing people that said think it over. Now I'm going to double back. I'm not going to go forward any slides because I promised you and I promised Jeff that I would relate this to what we're talking about here, which is retention and productivity of employees. I work in the sales arena, and I tell every company that I work with, every CEO that I work with, that no customer is more important than the internal one that you're probably neglecting daily. No customer is more important than the internal one that you're neglecting daily, probably. Most companies spend time, energy, money, hire guys like me to figure out how to bring more to the top line, right? And when I ask them, what are you doing for your internal customers? More than half the time I have to explain what the term is. What do you mean by internal customers? You talk about the guys that walk in the door to buy something? I don't really have that. I go find them. No, I'm talking about the people that you hired, your employees, the people that represent you, your brand, the people that you rely on and count on. What are you doing to service your internal customers? And it starts with, and a lot of people have alluded to it in different ways. We talked about culture earlier and I asked some questions about that. And man, have I seen some toxic culture, so I'll be able to refer some business your way over time now that I have your contact information. Because sometimes I walk in and I'm like, you're not worth the headache as a customer. And I'm right out the door, right? But let me ask you a question. When your key employees look at you as the leaders of your company, where do they put you on that scale? Do they see you as someone who just peddles your point of view to them? Who just has a top-down mentality? We do this, why? Because I say so. Because I'm the owner, that's why. Because I'm the C-level guy, that's why. What length of relationship do you think they're assigning to you when that's the messaging that they're getting and the value that they're getting? If they see you as a vendor, maybe you're not quite as aggressive as what I just described, but you don't really take the time to understand their needs as an internal customer, what their pains are when they show up for work every day, how their lives can be maybe a little bit better by you addressing things in the company. Sure, they'll stay, because it's a good job. And then the minute that somebody offers them a little more money or sells them on how happy they're going to be because the grass is always greener on the other side, they're gone. And maybe you're sitting there scratching your head and saying, I don't get it. They were here for 3 years. I paid them well, thought I treated them well, now they're gone. Well, if you don't get to that consultant, trusted advisor level with your internal customers, then you should expect to see a rotating cycle in terms of having to replace people. Not only that, you should get used to, who was it that said, one of the speakers, and I'm sorry, there's so much great information today that I forgot, but there was a term that was used about the employee who's there, but they're there in body only. Wasn't it your presentation?
Presentation.
Presentism, right? That's when you run into that. When an employee isn't invested in what you do and why you do it because they don't think that you're invested in them, that's what you get. All the stuff that they bring from home, they get to work it on out at your office while you pay them, and then wonder why your productivity isn't where it's supposed to be, and then wonder when they leave. So what I would encourage us to do is to pay as much attention on a daily basis to what our messaging is, how we represent ourselves, how we discover the pains or the needs of our internal customers as we do to the people that we're out there chasing to add top line. Because I originally before I was at Sandler Training, I was in the management consulting business. And I can tell you, you can grow top line all you want. If you're putting all those top line numbers into a broken machine, what comes out the other end ain't worth having. And the only way to control that is to invest as much in the people that you brought into the building as you do in the people that you're out there chasing. Now, I've shortened this substantially because I told you I wanted to keep it on time. I looked at the thing before I stepped up, and I had till 12:15 because there were some closing remarks that had to be made. There's much more to this that I can break down for you at another date and time. If you're interested, I'd be happy to sit down or come back at a later date. Yeah?
As a person who's known Paul and his system and been involved in a group where he's trained 20 plus companies, give them a little taste of the in types of training you do.
Sure.
For internal employees. They need to hear a little bit.
So people think sales training, I don't know what pops into your mind, but you know, I've spent the better part of my life, 30 plus years in the sales world. And so I know the old stuff that I used to do, a lot of features and benefits, overcoming objections, trial closes, price changes on Tuesday, would you like that in red or green? All that kind of stuff that everybody's used to. They know it when it's coming, and it feels icky, right? What I learned about 20 years ago when I got exposed to Sandler's, there's another way. There's a way to have a sales interaction where you actually ask questions designed to find out about that other person. To find out whether they deserve to go from suspect, because not everybody's a prospect. Everybody's a suspect. Your questions will determine whether they become a prospect, and then ultimately whether there's a potential for them to become a customer, where it's a win-win. And so we go through a consultative process where we figure out if we can both win, and if we can't, we can shake hands and part friends. And if we can, then we do business together. But from a training perspective, we've got programs that deal with sales training at every level, but also things like enterprise selling. For those that are selling companies at a higher level, how do you attack that behemoth with so many layers of decision making, with such extended timelines, it seems, where you feel like sometimes you're restarting your story over and over again because they've never talked, even though it's the 7th time that you've been over to talk about the situation that you're trying to fix. We have management training. And then based on what I shared with you today, we have a class that we do maybe 2 or 3 times a year that we call strategic customer care. And those are for folks that are not salespeople in your organization, but as you know, every single person in your company has the potential to either grow a customer or lose a customer. And if you just leave that to chance, you're not just going to be chasing your tail when it comes to employees, you're going to be chasing your tail when it comes to replacing accounts. Because all it takes is one bad interaction. Remember, your best customer is somebody else's best prospect. And there are a bunch of people out there looking to snag that business from you, whether we're talking about the business of an employee or the business of an account. So we have a number of different programs for different size companies, and it's really not cookie cutter. I try to get to know my clients, and I do a lot of corporate and individualized training. And so if that's something that holds some interest for any of you, I'd love to sit down with you on a one-on-one and discuss that. Yes, sir.
I say I've known Paul for 5+ years and then the Sandler program for probably 20. And what I loved about their system was the fact that they really helped you understand the psychology of interaction, of really what clients are looking for and need. As much as you teach selling, you're also teaching just the psychology of how best to interact with your staff and with the clients so that you are meeting them. It's very upfront. There's no, it's just great interpersonal relationships that you can develop by what you guys teach. So kudos to the success you guys have had.
Thank you.
I agree, and I don't give testimonials lightly or frequently, but I went through twice. I use it on my wife. It really changed.
You gotta be a ninja to do.
20 years ago, 10 years ago, and you're always working on being better at what you do, but why was I talking to people that didn't even have the budget and things like that?
Thank you for that. Jumping off what he said, my wife worked for a short time for our office in Altamont as an office manager. And she actually came to me after being exposed to the Sandler stuff. And now when we have difficult conversations, she forces us to do something called upfront contracts. Because she's like, look, the only way we won't kill each other is if we know how much time we're spending on this, what's on the agenda, and what's the allowable outcomes of this thing. Because if not, it's gonna go bad. And so she now demands it, and it's just one piece of what we teach. So thank you, all 3 of you, for the testimonials. I went 5 minutes over, so I apologize. Thanks for having me.